Hi, it's Bill back again for the second video, coming to you again from my sanctuary in lovely 100-degree Jupiter, Florida. What we're going to talk about today is the title of the video, Is Truth Relative? And I'm sorry, what did you say? Is that my wife's 500 horsepower Mustang GT behind me? Why, yes it is. Thank you very much for asking. The amazing thing about that car is I got it for her 3 years ago, and I've managed to maintain good boy status for 3 solid years because of that car. It's a miracle. Back to the title of the video, is truth relative? The short answer, absolutely not. The long answer, that's going to require some unpacking. First of all, to say truth is relative is a self-defeating statement. The definition of truth is that which conforms to reality. Anything that conforms to reality cannot be part of one's subjective opinion or one's taste. It is true or it's not true. You get truth or your opinion. You don't get both. And as an example of this, just to give you a little example, if somebody was a relativist and they believed in subjective truth or relative truth, if they owned a home and they had a plumbing problem, they had a broken pipe in a wall, they get to call one of two plumbers. They can call plumber A, who believes in objective moral authority and believes in absolute truth or objective truth, or plumber B, who believes what he learned in college, that everybody's truth is valid and everybody can have their own truth. Which plumber is the relativist going to call? They can't live out their own belief. They're going to call plumber A every single time when their money's on the line. It's quite amazing how you can watch that play out. I've seen it play out numerous times. You just can't live it out. We had some people in town, and usually when we have people in town here in South Florida, we take them out in the boat. We were going out to dinner one evening with some relatives, and my sister, myself, and my uncle were talking about this very subject, about relative truth or relative or subjective truth. And my cousin, my uncle's daughter, tried to make a case for subjective truth, which she learned in college. And we were running at night, my navigation lights were on. And to make my point, I pointed at the green navigation light. I said, that light is in fact green. Anything else you call it, other than green, as far as a color is concerned, does not conform to reality. And she said, well, what if a person looks at it that's colorblind? If that person's colorblind and they see that light is blue, that is their truth. And I informed her she had stepped out on a very slippery slope. And what that slippery slope is that the person looking at that light, seeing it as blue, instead of the green it actually is, their perception is flawed. Flawed perception does not create truth. This is a huge problem in our society and has been for societies past. And for her, I use the example of the RMS Titanic. We all know the Titanic. We all saw the movie back in the 90s. The Titanic was a ship built in Great Britain, and on its maiden first voyage over to the United States, it hit an iceberg and it sunk. What was that? What actually happened there? There was flawed perception that the ship was unsinkable. That flawed perception collided with truth in the form of an iceberg. What was the result? The biggest, grandest thing ever built by the hands of man was torn in half, eviscerated, and scattered over a 2 square mile debris field in one of the deepest parts of the ocean, not to be seen again for 75 years. And 1,500 men, women, and children either drowned or froze to death. That's what happens when flawed perception meets the truth. In that particular case, it was an iceberg. But the truth was the ship was not unsinkable. We all know that now. But there was this, when it comes to truth, there was this guy. He lived about 2,000 years ago. He was a carpenter. He called himself Truth. Jesus, that was his name. His name was Jesus. He had a lot of things to say on the subject matter of truth. Very worth your time to read. It can enlighten you when it comes to truth and the fact that truth is absolute, not subjective or not relative. Now, I want to end the video with a quote from a brilliant man who's long gone now. His name was Andrei Sakharov. Andrei Sakharov was they called him one of the fathers of the nuclear bomb in Russia. Over here we had the Manhattan Project headed by Robert Oppenheimer. His Soviet counterpoint was Andrei Sakharov. Andrei Sakharov said later in his years, he said, "I always thought the most powerful weapon in the world was the bomb." He said, "I've changed my mind. The most powerful weapon in the world is the truth." That's some pretty serious food for thought. And one other little component about truth being relative or subjective is that if that's true, there's roughly, give or take, 7.5 billion people on this planet. If truth was subjective and or relative, how do we communicate? I mean, when you talk to somebody else, aren't you appealing to a standard you expect them to understand? How do we communicate? How do we collaborate? How can we do anything if there's 7.5 billion different truths on the planet? Truth is absolute. It cannot be lived out to call it anything otherwise, because it's, another quick one here. I did this to somebody once. It was kind of mean, but you'll get the point. Somebody was telling me that truth was subjective. And I had an iPhone. And I said, you know what? I said, let me see that real quick. After this long conversation about truth being subjective, I grabbed his iPhone and I said, I always wanted one of these. I put it in my pocket and I started walking away. And I got to watch an amazing transformation. I got to watch a relativist morph into an absolutist in 1.5 seconds flat, telling me I absolutely did something wrong taking his phone. I guess truth's not so subjective, is it? Well, I want to end the video there. I wanted to drop one other little thing in on this. There's a man named Frank Turek. He's one of our contemporary Christian apologists. Funny guy, too. Very smart guy. He has a book, one of his several books, Stealing from God. It really goes into the relativism and how people that claim that worldview have to steal from the objective or God worldview in order to make their worldview work. It really breaks it down and unpacks it nicely. With that said, if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down button. But if you hit the thumbs down button, leave a comment. Just so I know, so I can respond to why you thought it was thumbs down. If you want to subscribe, I'm sorry. What did you say? Tell my wife you like her car? Okay. Oh, and tell her she has a really cool husband for getting her that? Okay, I'll tell her. She won't believe me, but she'll believe you. I'll tell her you said it. We'll see you next week. Thanks.